Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 2 o'clock session. If you've been here all day, congratulations. Like that's 5 hours of content. If you've been watching some of the replays or running 2 sessions at the same time, you're getting lots of CPD points based on everything that we're giving away today. My name's Trent, and if this is somehow the first time you've joined a session today, welcome. We're so glad you're here. But if you've been to a few of these already, then you know the drill. So I'm going to get into a few of the housekeeping items for the benefit of the new people. Um, First things first, all the sessions are being recorded and transcribed. We're actually putting all of that then through Vinyl to get all the transcriptions, to then push a whole bunch of outputs out the other side. They'll be out with everyone next week. So if you like this session in terms of what Amy gets to talk about, you'll also like some of the stuff we've captured to produce for you as a next action item as well. I mentioned CPD. Thanks to the team at AccrediWise, this session is applicable for a CPD point, which is great. There'll be more info on that soon to come as well. And a few of you have taken part in this and are due to get a gift card, but you can win up to $500 in gift cards. It's very easy to participate. You just jump on LinkedIn, you tag the firm and say, I learned something really cool today, and it was X, tagging the firm. And that is your entry. That's how you enter and get possibly a gift card. Amy, if you want a gift card, what would you spend the money on?
A new pair of gumboots, actually. I really want some hunter gumboots.
Oh,
I know. I feel like your
yeah,
wife can understand that desire. Just putting it out
yeah. She probably would, but I'm not going to mention it to her because I don't want to give her an idea. But good thought, though. Good suggestion. That's a creative way to spend that. I did not think about that. I want to take a moment to thank all of our partners and sponsors, namely the Intuit QuickBooks team for being our platinum partner, but also Clarity Street. Thank you so much for getting involved in the Growth Club and sharing your wisdom with us. For those that haven't met you before, that hopefully there could be a few people. I mean, I think you do a good job being around in lots of places, but Clarity Street do amazing work for accounting and bookkeeping firms, particularly around things like tech stacks, and they're very famous for their apps map, apps guide. Wow, how have I totally messed the name of your apps? The thing that you're famous for.
It's the app stack that we're well known for, and then it's the apps guide, which is the most recent one, which is pretty much every app in the marketplace, which is a downloadable on our website. And
Oh, great. And I've mashed all those things into one and figured,
all
yeah,
in one.
great, amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's all.
good. Well, we'll be able to share some of the resources of that during this session. So, thank you to all our partners for getting involved. This session is from Amy from Clarity Street. Before you grow, build the firm that actually deserves to scale. And I talked in the last session about this being a foundation chat. So it's about helping make sure you get the right foundations in place before you go on to do some of these things. Um, and actually, we didn't catch up for a proper pre-game on this. So I assume that's what you're going to talk about. And if not, that's cool too. So, Amy, I'm going to hand over to you and let you take it away from here. If you are joining us, which I can see a lot of you are, jump into the chat and just tell me where you're dialing in from. Let me know you can hear and see everything A-OK, just so we know the tech is working. Nicole said she's got a red pair of Hunter Wellies. That's,
I want the
yeah,
navy blue ones.
okay. Good. I'm glad you're all
Yeah.
engaged in that. And then St. George Accounting Services, I don't know your name, sorry, but hello, good to see you. David from Newcastle, good to see you here, David. Nikki, Harvey Bay, awesome. I've got this professional microphone, so hopefully it sounds crisp as. Yeah, good, good. Amy, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your time. I'll let you take it away.
Cheers. Appreciate it. Just checking, Trent, can you see my screen before you
Certainly
grow?
can.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much for having me. I am today presenting a session on Before You Grow, build the firm that actually deserves to scale, basically, okay? All right, let's kick things off. A little bit about me for those who haven't met me before. Who is Amy Holdsworth? I am an ex-practice manager. I have been implementing accounting tech for the last 15 plus years. I am a business owner, obviously, of Clarity Street. We are cloud integrators. We're a cloud integration business, basically. I am also a co-host of the All Aussie Accounting Adventures, the Tech Edition of Tactile. So listening to that if you'd like to. And in my spare time, I'm also a cake decorator. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Redcoat Cake when I remember to post things that I create as well. Okay. That's a little bit about me, a little bit about who Clarity Street is. We are a cloud-based business that designs and delivers dynamic, tailored best practice infrastructures for accounting firms. But what does that actually mean? We spend a hell of a lot of time on our with accounting practices, implementing projects and doing consulting work with them. We will implement one app, multiple apps. We will clean up 1, 2, 20 apps. We will look at your entire operation basically and make sure that your apps are cohesive, but aligned with processes and procedures as well, which is where a lot of the training and the consulting comes down to it. We do specialize in accounting practices and accounting tech, obviously. And as I say, it's not just the entire tech stack, and we will do full transitions, we'll do full migrations, but we'll also do individual apps as well, if that's what you're after. We have built our own little training and development platform called Clarity Campus. It is your knowledge base. It is your self-paced learning online courses as well. It's where you can, it also comes with CPD as well. So it's where you can actually understand how to use all the apps. And then we have also got a service called Project 95, which is operational coaching. So unlike some of the other business coaches out there who do a marvelous job of coaching business owners and accountants, our service is directly targeted at the operational team members. So your admin team, practice managers, your operations team. In my opinion, the more important of the businesses that hold everything together, and they're the glue that holds the business together. So it's monthly accountability, it's a community for them as well, and it's basically coaching on how to ensure that they are being just as efficient and effective as all of you accountants out there as well. So that's a little bit about who Clarity Street is. However, enough about that one. Why are we here today? All right, we are here today because whilst this is a bit of a generalization, which I appreciate, so many firms seem incredibly overwhelmed right now. I also appreciate it that it's like 5 more slips until the end of the financial year in Australia. So I kind of get why everybody's feeling a little overwhelmed right now. But we are, that talks to the point of growth. Okay, so that's the reason what we're actually talking about. But everybody seems very overwhelmed. There are also many faces of growth, but only one of them is really marketed to you. And growth means you obviously get bigger, right? Bigger is better, always? Not so much, because getting bigger isn't always better. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. But also accounting firms need a growth plan that aligns with their goals. And that's why we're here today. And that's what I wanted to unpack for you. So we are going to be unpacking the concept of growth, what growth actually is, how to know your systems, your tech and your processes once you've actually worked out your growth side of things. We're going to do a bit of a boundary check, because that's always really important with accountants. And in my opinion, one of the reasons why it probably halts your growth in whatever area you are trying to grow in is not necessarily putting the right boundaries in place. And then we're going to finish up with the 5 must-know growth tips that will support you moving forward as well. So, bit of a controversial topic alert, all right? And I appreciate that this is a little bit of a controversial one, but the controversial topic alert is you don't actually need to grow. Just to be really clear here, you guys don't actually need to grow. There is this really, there's this thing in business that if you're a business owner, obviously you want to grow consistently and always consistently grow. But do you actually really need to grow? Because it's a really good thing to actually kind of, I was speaking to one of my colleagues about this when we were putting out the slide deck together. We were talking about a bit of a, forgive me for swearing slightly, but a bit of a shit sandwich analogy, basically, all right? So if your firm isn't actually in a position to grow because your processes aren't aligned, your systems and your tech aren't fabulous, you don't necessarily have the right team members in place, if you add more clients into that mix in whatever capacity, it's just going to be a crap sandwich. It's crap on top of crap on top of crap, and it's just going to be a big old pile of it, basically. Do you know what I mean? So if you grow too fast, that's what tends to happen. So that's what we're going to kind of sort of talk about basically now is, how to avoid that trap. Just as a little side note, I've actually literally come off the back of 2 days with my team. We did sort of an off-site strategy session. We all sat around in a boardroom for 2 days solid, and we worked out, we went over our strategy for, what does the next year look like? in Clarity Street. And our annual theme this year is to not actually grow. What it is there to do is, well, it is to grow slightly, but it's, our theme is actually more around consistency and becoming profitable, or a hell of a lot more profitable, because that's where we've probably not nailed it in the last 12 months. Just a bit of a sharing component here. But, our strategy for our business isn't actually to get more clients in the door. It's actually to keep our numbers steady and to get really consistent and nail our service and our delivery so we can be efficient and be way more profitable, basically. So there are lots of different faces to growth. I think, in relation to this as well, how do you actually know if you are ready to grow? How do you actually know if your firm is actually ready to grow? Okay. Here's an interesting one. Given that it is close to the end of the financial year here in Australia, lodgement targets. Gents, could somebody please lodge my first poll for me, please? What I want to know is who reached 95% of your lodgement targets by the 15th of May. Why I'm saying 95% and not 100%, I'm giving you a 5% leeway for those anomalies that are the genuine anomalies. Like you've got clients that might be sick overseas / in hospital, those kind of, anomalies, like genuine anomalies where you weren't able to. I would love to know, if you're all keen, is to know how many of you actually reached 95% of your lodgement requirements by the 15th of May. Because it is quite an interesting one. All right, I feel like that's probably given it enough time. If you want to finish up the results and maybe show those results for me. Because I'm really keen to know the answer. I can't see this, by the way, just so you're aware. 14%. I'm impressed. I am very impressed. You guys, Chris, that's very funny. For the 14% of people who actually said yes, that they did reach 95%, you are allowed to grow, okay? In some way, shape or form, you are allowed to grow. Because this might be quite brutal. You can actually close that now if you'd like. This might be quite brutal, but in my personal opinion, if you can't get your basic bread and butter compliance work done, you have absolutely no right to grow your business, in my opinion, because that means that something is not going right in some way, shape or form that is not allowing you to get your basic compliance work done with your clients. So why are you wanting to grow if you can't get your basic compliance work done for the clients that you've actually already got? I know that might sound really brutal, but I just, what sort of, I guess, as I say, like, why do you deserve to actually grow if you can't get the basics done? So here's something for you. Do you have your services structured? Are they actually structured correctly? Do you know what your services are? And what I mean by that is, do you, are they all listed out? Do you have descriptions for your services? Do you have basic pricing for your services? Does your team actually understand what your services are? Are they efficient? Are they effective? Can they actually execute the work? Do your clients know what the services are? But do your team know what the services are and what your team are actually delivering on as well? Yeah. So if they haven't been, clearly identified and articulated and priced, that's going to make it hard to obviously deliver on those services. So making sure that as I say, your team is efficient, it's effective, they can actually execute that work. Have you as a business owner, if you are business owners on this call, have you actually spent the time educating and coaching your team so that they can execute on the work? Are your goals clear and aligned with a growth plan? Do you actually want to grow? That's the other thing. Do you actually want to grow, or are you just being told that you need to grow or you should grow because that's what society and everyone around you is telling you should be doing? Something to really ask yourself that question, because as I said, we are at the growth numbers. I know that that's, slightly controversial, but it is something to really consider around that, yeah? But mainly, are your goals actually clear? Are they aligned? Does your team know what your goals are? Are you actually being accountable to those goals, checking back in? It's okay if they change along the way, by the way, that's all right. But are you checking back in with those goals, and are we achieving them, and are we moving the goalposts? Are we slightly tweaking them along the way? Because I know, as I said, from a Clarity Street perspective, up until like the end of this financial year, it was grow, more clients, more clients, more clients, more clients. And now I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm good now. Now I'm going to slightly pivot, and it's about, really providing a really decent service with efficiency and those kinds of things. Okay. All right. The next one is, and may I have the next poll, please, launched? Conventional growth versus the firm you actually want. So, are all of your clients receiving 100% of the services that they need to be successful? So why I'm saying it like that is not every client, it is not relevant for every client to receive every service that you actually offer, okay? But it is relevant to understand if every client is receiving the service that will actually help them be successful. So I'd be interested to know this one. I am going to talk through a few of these little bits and pieces as well, but there is obviously lots of different types of growth. There's conventional growth versus, the firm that you actually want. You can end that poll if you'd like now, guys. Thank you. We'll check out the results. Much better. Thank you. Well played. 95% of you have basically said no. They're not. 95% of you have said, no, your clients are not receiving all of the services that they need to be successful. So you can close that if you like. I am going to basically say to you that growth by new clients, either organic versus via acquisition, that's the conventional growth model, right? Is just getting more clients. Getting more work, getting more clients, okay? That is a conventional growth. So if you've decided that you do actually want to grow, here is obviously the understanding and the breakdown of those different types. So growth by new clients, either organic growth and or via acquisition. Acquisition is always a fun one. If you do need any help with that, we offer a special service. So it's a really good call actually in relation to the no, but that is because they don't want to pay. Which, I think that also then means that are they aligned with their growth targets as well? That's an interesting one, Alison. So we can come back to that one if you like. But the other thing I would like to know is, have you actually looked at your debtors, your unbilled WIP and your write-offs? Because you might find that you don't need to grow if you actually called in your debtors and actually didn't have a debtor position. If you build all of that unbilled WIP, and if you actually took a little bit of time to understand why you've got write-offs, you may not need to grow. Just as a thought process. Have you actually looked at a price increase recently? I'm really hoping that you have. There's some pretty cool software out there that does that fairly easily for you if you are using the likes of Ignition. It's pretty easy to obviously send out an engagement agreement and to do a flat, call it 10% increase basically. But if you haven't increased your prices recently, I would strongly recommend that you do. To your point back in the chat though, Alison, that means that you need to be able to articulate the value. And if a client doesn't value the service that you're actually offering, maybe they're not the right type of client for you, which then may open up the door for a new client, just as a side note, that will actually want to pay. Client matrices. These ones, I love doing these client matrices. They're actually one of my favorite things to do. They take a little bit of time. I appreciate that. And there are some pretty cool little apps out there as well that can support this. But effectively, you've got two types of a client matrix. You've got one which is dollars, and that is here is all of my clients, and this is how much I'm actually billing, and you can work out the most, the clients that are actually paying you the most, for example, all right? I'd really like to highlight here though, is just because you have a large client paying you a lot of money doesn't actually mean that they are a profitable client. They could also be sucking you dry from a time and energy perspective, okay? So keep that in the back of your mind when you're actually looking at these figures. So also look at, if you are going to do the dollar matrix though, look at obviously clients, how much they're paying you. I would then also add in how much time you've spent on them. Do that so you can actually work out the profitability of them, okay? As I say, just because you've got a large client paying you lots doesn't mean that they're profitable. The services one is a bit of fun, okay? All of your clients down one side of an Excel spreadsheet, all of your services across the top, and go through and color code them, basically. Any blank square, so if it's, green, they've got the service. Red, they don't need the service. It's just not the right fit. Blank, that's opportunity. If you did a lot of digging within your current database, and you don't even have to probably dig that far, I can promise you that, because 95% of you said that you weren't offering all the services to your clients that are actually available and or to help them be successful, then this should actually be quite an easy experiment. You don't necessarily need to get more clients. The interesting part around, building out or acquiring new clients, a lot of a lot of software, and as accountants, you would know this. Within software businesses, we talk about the cost of acquisition. It's not, I wouldn't say that is as massively high within an accounting practice, but my goodness, how much time does the onboarding process take these days for brand new clients? That's a bit of a pain in the butt. So the time that it actually takes to bring on a new client, it wouldn't necessarily be to have the initial sales call to let them know what service you're providing to get them to accept. That does seem like the generally easier part from an accounting firm's perspective. It's the knock-on effect of everything else of getting the client up to speed. That's quite a high cost, right? Okay. So if you've already got current clients that already trust you and they're already on your books and you're already set up though, it's a much easier thing to offer them the additional services that are actually, that are going to help them with their business. I appreciate that there are some clients that don't want to pay you for that service. Yep, I get it. At the end of the day, you can only lead a horse to water, you can't force it to drink. But, maybe that's just you've tried. At least you've tried. But I can guarantee you that there are a lot of firms out there that haven't even actually tried. Right? The last one here is actually refining your processes and procedures to get more efficient and increase your capacity, basically. And that's what we're going to lead into, is understanding that, because most of the issues that I see in terms of growth within accounting practices is that you guys don't actually have the correct infrastructure in place to allow you to effectively grow. And it's things like the right procedures, the right processes. Your onboarding process is slow and arduous. It might be, the way that you are billing your clients is slow and arduous. It might be the way that you're managing your workflow, same sort of thing, right? If you're not actually looking at refining your processes and procedures, that can also dramatically impact your profitability, which also you might go, oh my God, I need to grow because I need more money in the bank, hypothetically. If you actually align those though, you might find that you've got more capacity and then choice around how and if you actually want to grow, possibly looking at some of the ones that we've just actually obviously mentioned above. Great, let's move on. I was like, is there anything in the chat that I need to focus on? Nothing yet. All right, so efficiency before expansion. Are the right people performing the right role in terms of the client lifecycle? For those that have seen me chat before, you might have seen me present this before, so apologies, but it's also a good time to remember to look at any areas of this little process that could be improved and or refined if you haven't got to that yet. So this is what happens in a traditional workflow practice, all right? In a traditional firm in a traditional process, all right? Client contacts you to get their work done. You start the job, you get halfway through and you have queries. You contact the client to get answers, and then you wait. Multiple emails and calls backwards and forwards. You pick up the job, you put down the job. You move on to another job and you forget about the queries. The client finally comes back to you. So you pick the job up again. And then you continue working. You ask additional queries of the client. You put the job down. The client comes back to you, so you pick the job up again. And then you complete the job. You look at the WIP and you cry a little bit. You write time off and adjust it. You look at the bill from last year, and regardless of the WIP position this year round, you're probably just going to raise an invoice with a 3 to 5% increase from last year's bill. Send the work to the client for signing. Wait for the client to sign. Wait for the invoice to be paid. Continue to wait for both until it's finally actually at completion. And this, look, even if you're looking at the color grid of this one, it's getting more and more intense as all of the steps happen, basically. But the average WIP lockup days in the industry are 90 to 120 days. If you can't improve on this, I'm going to go back to that point of, should you actually be growing? All right. So let's try and get this improved, and then that will give you the capacity to grow in the areas that you would like to grow, if you want to grow, of course. Hourly rate billing. I just showed you on the screen what happens when you hourly rate bill a client. Now, I don't actually believe that the bulk of your work should be charged at an hourly rate. I'm a really big fan of value-based billing, okay? So I want you to consider the idea, if you're not already doing this, of not selling time, rather sell the service that you actually perform, okay? This is what we recommend instead. and complete a work schedule. We are at the end of the financial year at the moment. This is the perfect time, and I would argue this is almost the most important step in this process. If you haven't scheduled out your work for the next 12 months, knowing when your work is actually coming through the door, I mean, clients are pretty damn habitual. I would say 80% of your clients come in at the same time every year. There are some anomalies, I appreciate that, but most clients are fairly habitual in terms of when they actually, get their work done, all right? In terms of scheduling in the work, I would be, as I say, there are lots of different options in terms of the tech that you could use in relation to handle this. When all else fails, an Excel spreadsheet. Here's the client, here's the type of work, this is when we're proposing to do the work throughout the year. All right, that's the first thing. Spend the time on it now would be my recommendation. Next up, contact the client for information. Follow up until the work arrives in the office. Once it arrives in the office, it goes back to the accountant to scope that work. Okay. What did we do last year? How much time did we spend? How much did we invoice the client? And if I wanted to get this job done today or get it to review stage 1, at least as a bare minimum, what's stopping me from achieving that? What's missing? What information is actually missing, right? At that point, the accountants aren't allowed to continue doing any work. The reason for that is it needs to go back to the admin team to create a proposal and send that to the client. Now, for context, you don't actually need to send the proposal with the fee that you're going to charge the clients now. You could do that. I actually recommend 6 weeks in advance. This is what happens with the proposals. The only ones that would be getting charged right now or as of 1 July would be those ones that are on an annual service agreement. For any other clients that you would traditionally get their work, timesheet, invoice at the end of the job, or 50% up front, 50% on completion, those kinds of things, this will suit these clients basically. Okay, so send a proposal to the client. It's really hard for a client to say no once they've sent you all of their work, just giving you the heads up in relation to this. It's also an opportunity if they don't like the price and or they don't want to pay, you've not lost any time because you haven't actually done any work. Or you might have spent, say, 15 minutes scoping the job. All right. So if they don't want to pay, then it's, that's just something to remember there. Send the proposal to the client. There are some pretty cool tools out there that will handle this, but I would strongly recommend that when you send a proposal to the client, you have a piece of software that also collects payment where possible too. Because once you send the proposal to the client, once they've accepted it, there should be no reason why you can't get that work done within a 14 to 28 day turnaround, especially if they've paid you for the work. Because if they have paid you for the work up front, all of a sudden there's a psychology shift in the way that the relationship works. The clients have an expectation that the work will be done in a more timely manner, which means that the accountant gets a bit of a kick up the butt because they need to get the work done, because no accountant likes to have a client on their case and complaining. I don't think any human being does like to have clients that are complaining. So there's an advantage of getting the work done more efficiently there. The other thing is that if a client's paid you for the work, they're a lot more likely to get answers to queries back in a more timely manner because they have an expectation that things will happen quicker. Having said that, if they don't get queries back to you, you're not working for free. That's the main thing. You've already been paid. Beyond that, though, nothing else should change. Queries get answered, work gets reviewed, documents are prepared for signing, and then you either have a meeting to present the work or you email that work off to the client. All right. There should be no reason why you can't actually achieve this, in my opinion, basically. So you're effectively, what you're doing here when you're value-based billing your clients, you are front-ending the process as opposed to back-ending the process. In the previous slide that I showed you, you're effectively back-ending the process because you're doing all of the work and then you're billing at the end, whereas this one, you're billing up front. It means that everything actually happens in a much more efficient process. This will also greatly assist you, obviously, with the new with all the new changes that have come about recently. We should be doing engagement agreements anyway, and obviously displaying the services and what we're actually charging for our services regardless. So this is a good opportunity to ensure that we're obviously looking at all aspects of the business. So even if you don't want to adopt like the entire process here, right? I know that I presented an option. You can still do components and facets of this process that will have huge impacts on your efficiency within your practice. So even if it's actually, I don't want to take payment up front, hypothetically, there are a lot of accounting practices that don't like that, and that's fine. I don't agree with it. But, if you want to still take payment on completion, take payment on completion. But at least be transparent around the service and the dollar figure that you're obviously providing to your clients, because that very much impacts your internal processes, basically. So with all that being said and done, we can talk about the process, but what about the tech? Okay, so this little image that I'm going to show you up on screen is one that we're quite well known for. This is the Intuit version of this diagram. We do have another one on our website, which is one of the other incumbent accounting software pieces in the marketplace. We are probably more known for the, sort of the Xero side of things, but there are so many tech options that are available in the QuickBooks space right now, which is amazing. I love this. The reason why they're all on here is because these guys all have open APIs. Okay, so it means that all the tech actually talks to each other, which means that information flows from one platform to another. Why that's helpful is because that obviously increases efficiency and makes your processes and your procedures obviously more efficient, just generally speaking, if you're not double handling information and data and all of those kinds of things. So in relation to why the apps are here and how they're obviously split, I can appreciate that there are a lot of apps on here. That's the first thing, okay? These are practice apps. These are the apps that you would use in your practice. A big caveat to that. You don't need all of them, okay? Please don't have all of them, in fact. You genuinely do not need all of the apps that are on this app stack. I've grouped them together under different headings, which are business functions within your firm. That means that there are options out there for you. So if, for example, I like to use this one purely as an example because I find it quite entertaining, but from a self-managed super fund and corporate and legal perspective, right? If you didn't want, for example, I don't know, you liked CAS 360, but you actually preferred Class. Even though BGL own Simple Fund, and it doesn't matter. You've got choice basically if you like the way that another app looks. There's lots of choice out there is what I'm getting at, okay? So you don't need all of the apps. That's the first thing. You've got choice to actually connect in which bits and pieces that you think is more relevant for you. Couple of things on this one as well. No one pays to feature on this little diagram from a Clarity Street perspective. Apps appear on this as and when new apps come about, and they genuinely solve an operational problem for an accounting practice internally. That's the reason how they get onto there. So we've had really good experience with all the apps basically and how they actually work and how data flows and client workflows basically. So to give you a little example of how you might use them together, and this is purely an example, okay? I'm going to map one for you from a client lifecycle perspective of how the information could flow from one app to another. All right, bear with me here. So you have, you could sign on with Practice Protect, look at your emails via obviously your Microsoft account, okay? You get an email from your client, you need to do a new proposal. You use Ignition for your engagement process. Then you use Financial Sense to manage your workflow, which then connects to QuickBooks and then also connects through and pushes through to Logic from your financial reporting, back to Logic for your tax forms as well. You've got BGL for your corporate and legal side of things, and also BGL again. So you've got CAS 360 and Simple Fund. Back to Financial Sense for your time and billing. QuickBooks for your invoicing and payments, and then that all feeds back through into a document management solution. In this instance, I've just chosen SharePoint from that perspective, and then you've got document signing, which is ViewSign in this instance. If you want to then replace a different app with a different spot because that's what you've got, that's totally fine. The idea here is that obviously the information flows through from one to another, basically. Okay, so this is purely just an example. I'm not saying that this is best practice in any way, shape, or form. This is just an example of how these types of apps could work together. We spend a lot of time with clients actually working out the best apps for data flows. So if anyone does want to get in touch with us, by all means do, but this is basically what we do in terms of working out that sort of stuff for accounting practices. Okay. Something that I mentioned earlier on is that I wanted to talk to you as well about boundaries, okay? In my opinion, accountants You're all too damn nice. Okay, you guys would sell your soul purely to help your clients out, which is phenomenally admirable and it is a beautiful quality that you have, but sometimes is at the detriment of your business. Why don't Nicole? You get a high five for that one, definitely. So, who controls your business? All right. So, are you actually setting the appropriate boundaries in place? Looking at this, here's a few. Let's set some actual boundaries. It's called, let's, appropriate boundaries in place around around setting expectations just generally. Internal, external, are you actually setting boundaries and setting expectations, sorry, with your clients, with your staff, with everything? Are you actually setting them? Are you being clear and concise? You know that old adage, to assume makes an ass out of you and me? Be really clear with setting expectations, basically. Around engagement, well, I think unfortunately, you now have to be really clear and concise. Actually, I'm going to say fortunately, if I'm being honest. Are all of your clients engaged? Well, I should damn well hope so as of 1 July, if I'm being honest here. But, making sure that you are obviously being proactive with your engagements, clear, concise, what service you're providing, how much you're charging, those kinds of things, that will greatly assist you. Your work schedule. Do you have a clear and concise work schedule? Do you know when you're going to do the work? Have you planned to, have you actually planned this out? Have you let your team know when you're planning on doing the work? Have you let your clients know when you're planning on doing their work? It's pretty easy to do a nice little mail merge out to your clients to go, dear clients, this year we're planning to do your work in November. Closer to the time, we'll be in touch to make sure that, to let you know what information we require from you with a nice little checklist. It's good to actually start that process now. By the way, your clients won't remember that you've done that, but it will trigger in their brain once you actually do contact them closer to the time. All right. Collecting data. Have you set some boundaries in the way that you will actually allow your clients to contact you? In relation to sending information. What I mean by that is, are you using a client portal? Are you using checklists through some pretty cool little software and tech? Content Share is one of them, just using that as an example. Are you using those kinds of things to actually collect data and set some boundaries with your clients around how you will receive information? Clients are pretty good these days, but if you're still receiving a shoebox, I'm really sad for you. And I hope that you'll be able to train your clients a bit better if that's the case. Billing. Oh, this is my favorite one. Boundaries around billing. My thing around billing is be consistent. Stop offering multiple ways of billing for clients just to appease them. It's your business. If you want to charge up front and take payment up front, then charge up front and take payment up front. Don't pander to your clients and think that, but the client won't pay. Okay, you know what? It's not like anyone's short of clients most of the time these days, or short of work, generally speaking. So most clients will actually say yes. There are, some situations you need to pick and choose this, obviously. But when you have multiple ways of billing, so upfront on completion, 50% upfront, 50% on completion, you might do a discount for some clients. Please don't do discounts if they pay you early, by the way. Anyway, there's lots of different ways of doing that. That impacts your admin team, basically. Okay, so the more ways you do that, it impacts you, it impacts your clients more than anything. Same as how you take payment. If you try and make that consistent across the board, that will also make it easier to manage and to receive your payments, just generally speaking, from a client perspective. All right. Signing solutions. I feel like signing solutions are probably taken care of these days. Most people have got them. The one thing that I will say, though, is try and make it a consistent output more than anything. So if you're using the likes of Anacha or FuseSign, just, they're the two sort of preferred in the industry, then make sure that you are using them where possible for as many things as you can, is where I'm sort of going with this, just so that you can actually make it a consistent experience for your clients. Roles and responsibilities. Do your team know what their roles and responsibilities are? Do you have clear position descriptions? Do you have clear, have you set clear boundaries in relation to what their roles and responsibilities are? Are you keeping them accountable? I know that's a really hard one. I know everybody feels really awkward and scared to actually make your team accountable, especially when it feels like there's such a shortage of decent team members. But there is also some levels out there that we need to set as in relation to that too. Internal boundaries, that roles goes back to your roles and responsibilities. Are we actually setting those internal boundaries with our team members about what we do expect and those kinds of things? And same as external with our clients. Have we actually, set those boundaries with our clients? This is when you can call me. This is when you can't call me. Unless you're dying, don't call me on weekends or in the evenings. You might have a small percentage of clients that you've given out your mobile number to. Otherwise, I mean, realistically, there shouldn't be a whole heap of clients that have access to you 24/7, basically is where I'm going with that. So set some boundaries, all right? Stop being so damn nice. All right. Last thing that I wanted to present to you today is the 5 must-know growth tips. All right. So if you have decided after all of this that you're like, yep, I'm good, I'm going to grow, and I've got some ideas of how I'm going to do that, and this is what I'm going to do, make sure that you are starting with the end in mind. What are your goals? Get really clear on what you want, not what other people want for you or what you think other people want or what you think you should be doing. What do you actually want? To give you a bit of insight around that one, I got asked this question a number of times over the last month. Well, what do you want, Amy? I'm like, well, if I damn well knew that, I wouldn't have to, spend as much time thinking about it and having all these conversations. What I did know is what I didn't want, which then eventually formed what I did want. So if that's easier, work out what you don't want. And then that sometimes leads to what you do want in terms of getting really clear and concise around what your goals are. Reverse engineer your success. Okay, so back to my point. Even if you don't know what you do want, if you know what you don't want, that will greatly assist. So once you've worked out what you want, now work backwards and go, all right, how do we actually get there? This is what I want. This is the target. This is the aim. What needs to change? What needs to be fixed internally to obviously and or externally to make that happen? Review and identify areas of improvement with your systems and your tech. Couldn't more highly recommend this one, basically. This is where you will find those opportunities for improvement, basically, all right? So make sure that you obviously do review them on the regular. Now is a very good time to do that with the new year starting. Build your plan and follow it, even when it gets busy and overwhelming, especially your work schedule. It won't happen instantaneously. Like if you're scheduled to do your client work in certain times of the year and clients don't kind of align and or you get inundated with work, still communicate and keep that, be clear and concise with your clients basically around that kind of point, but make sure that, you are still following the plan. You can adapt your plan, sure, but make sure that you're being accountable to it, especially when it's busy and overwhelming, right? Review, adapt, and stay on track, basically. So that's all I have for you today. If anybody is interested in understanding how they can possibly improve their tech, feel free to scan that little QR code and you can get a nice little freebie giveaway thingy, which is our business, our technology assessment workbook, which allows you to identify opportunities for improvement and then your tech. And there's a little code there as well. And then also another one, feel free to join me on my on our newsletter. Subscribe, but otherwise, thank you so much for having us. Me, basically.
Thanks for coming. I think you did an amazing job. You can tell because you start speaking not quickly, because we've talked about this before. I think you were at the right pace today. It was perfect. But you also bring a lot of energy when you talk through those little and this, and then this, and then this. But no, it was amazing. It's very good. So for those that have already caught the drift of emojis and things, that's the equivalent of a standing ovation. The more emojis that get pushed, the more Amy knows that she did a great job. So if there's only one random clapping hand, then she'll think that there's only one person, but lots of love hearts and claps is always helpful for her. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your help. See, look at all those little things flying. That's great. Ladies and gents, I hope you've enjoyed that session. We are heading into we have 3 sessions left. I'm glad you enjoyed that. That's so good. Look at the chat. That's so good. We have 3 sessions left. There's 2 at 3 o'clock and there's 1 at 4 o'clock, and I promise you, they're great. They're bangers. Like everything today, I can say that about everything. Everything today has been really, really good. Our next 3 o'clock session is with the wonderful Davey Mack. Has anyone met Davey? Posts amazing content on LinkedIn. Has a mad YouTube following, and they win a lot of clients through YouTube and through video. So the session is using video and YouTube to grow your client base and actually going into some of the numbers as well as to how much revenue they've been able to generate through investing heavily in video for their marketing strategy. You can only come to this session if you said you met Amy's rules, though. If you said that you're in the 95%, that's because you want to grow, then you're allowed to come to that session. But if you're interested, And you're not in that. You can still come if you want anyway. See, I was listening, I promise.
Yeah,
And then the other session is
slight
actually,
change in the way that I did that, but
yeah. The other
Sorry.
session at 3 o'clock is how to use AI to turn meeting transcripts into task content, training guides, and more. And that's with Jordan Vickery, who is actually co-founder of the firm and Vinyl. So if you're interested in learning more about how to really supercharge your AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever, using your meeting notes and meeting transcripts, you're going to want to check out that session as well. They're the next two things coming up at 3 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you all there. Amy, thank you so much again. And we're going to officially conclude the session right now. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.